The morning sun spilled over the quiet streets of Montgomery, Alabama. A man in worn jeans and a faded cap pushed open the door of a small diner. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air, familiar, comforting. But today, it wasn't just another breakfast rush. The man wasn't who he seemed. He was the owner, a millionaire entrepreneur, returning undercover to see how his dream was being run. What he didn't expect was a whisper that would shatter everything he thought he knew about loyalty, respect, and race. One small moment behind that counter would change his life, and everyone working there, forever. The diner had been a fixture in the neighborhood for decades, its neon sign flickering faintly at night like a heartbeat. From the outside, it looked modest. Red vinyl booths, checkered floors, a long counter where regulars sipped coffee and swapped gossip. Inside, the smell of sizzling bacon, fresh bread, and brewed coffee was inviting, masking the tension that often lingered beneath the surface. The man in the cap, Marcus, had grown up in this very town. He remembered slipping coins into the jukebox as a teenager, watching his parents argue over bills while the diner's staff served pancakes with a smile. Years later, Marcus had built a thriving chain of restaurants across the state. Yet, despite his success, he wanted to return to his first diner, not as the celebrated owner, but undercover, to witness the reality of what he had built. The staff didn't know he was back. He observed quietly, noting how some employees struggled, while others wielded subtle power over the kitchen and customers alike. Patrons greeted him warmly, but there was an undercurrent of tension he couldn't ignore. Whispers of favoritism, subtle jokes, and biases lingered in the air, unnoticed by anyone but him. Marcus's heart tightened. What he would hear next, whispered just behind the counter, would expose something far deeper than simple workplace drama, a reflection of the very racial injustices he had faced in his own life. Marcus slipped behind the counter as if he belonged there, observing every detail with a careful eye. The diner hummed with quiet activity, the hiss of the grill, the clatter of dishes, and the low murmur of patrons filling the booths. He noticed the way some employees avoided making eye contact with certain customers, while others whispered just a little too loudly about who really ran the place. There was something off, and Marcus's instincts, honed over years of building businesses, told him it went deeper than minor workplace tension. He watched a young waitress, Sarah, pour coffee for a group at a corner booth. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down the mugs. From the edge of his vision, Marcus caught a male cook rolling his eyes, muttering under his breath about those types of people. He froze. He had faced prejudice before, but witnessing it here, in the very diner he had poured his life into, cut differently. Then came the whisper. A low, cautious voice from the other side of the counter. If he knew what some of us do when no one's watching, he'd never forgive us. Marcus's pulse quickened. He glanced around. The words were aimed at him, yet no one knew who he truly was. There it was, the hidden culture he had feared, the unspoken hierarchy that had crept into his own creation. Subtle acts of bias became impossible to ignore. Orders delayed, customers ignored, jokes exchanged with laughter that didn't reach the eyes. Marcus felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. His diner, a symbol of hard work and community, had become a stage for hidden prejudices. He moved closer to the source of the whisper, pretending to adjust the napkin holder. The voice came again, barely audible. We run things our way. Don't think the boss would understand. Those words struck him like a physical blow. Marcus realized he had underestimated the depth of the problem. This wasn't just about employee mistakes. It was about systemic bias, hidden beneath polite smiles and everyday routines. Marcus's mind raced. He had two choices: confront them immediately and risk explosive backlash, or continue undercover, gathering evidence to expose the truth. His hands gripped the counter tightly. The diner, once warm and familiar, felt like a labyrinth of secrets. Each passing moment built tension in the air, and Marcus knew the climax of this day, the revelation that would shake everyone, was fast approaching. Marcus watched in silence as tension reached a breaking point. A regular customer, an elderly man, approached the counter asking for a simple breakfast. The cook, the same one who had whispered earlier, sneered slightly and deliberately delayed the order. Sarah, the young waitress, exchanged a nervous glance with Marcus as if she too felt the weight of what was happening. Then it happened. A new employee, unaware of Marcus's presence, whispered something under his breath. "Why does he even bother? Nothing will ever change. He doesn't belong here, and neither does anyone like him." The words pierced Marcus's heart. This wasn't about simple workplace tension anymore. It was blatant prejudice, hidden in the mundane rhythm of the diner, yet alive in every gesture, glance, and comment. Marcus felt a surge of fury and sorrow simultaneously. He stepped forward, removed his cap, and revealed himself. The room froze. Gasps echoed from the booths. The clatter of dishes halted. Every eye turned toward him. The undercover boss, the owner they hadn't recognized. He looked directly at the employee who had whispered. No words at first, only heavy silence. Then he spoke, calm but unwavering, describing everything he had witnessed. The whispers, the favoritism, the disrespect. He explained that the diner was meant to be a place of equality and respect. Betrayal cut deeper than he could have imagined, but his revelation exposed the truth with undeniable clarity. Shock rippled across the room. Some employees' faces fell, shame mingling with fear. Others, unable to meet his eyes, muttered apologies. Patrons whispered among themselves, the weight of the moment settling over everyone. Marcus's heart pounded, but beneath the anger was a quiet determination. This was a turning point. The diner would never be the same. The diner was quiet now, but the air was heavy with reflection. Marcus spoke to the employees not with anger alone, but with expectation and hope. He reminded them that a business, a community, or even a family thrives only when respect, fairness, and understanding are at its core. Every whisper, every subtle act of prejudice had consequences. Some immediate, some that fester quietly over time. Sarah approached cautiously. She admitted her fear of speaking up and relief that someone had finally acknowledged the injustice. Marcus listened, understanding that real change required courage from all sides. Employees who had faltered were given a choice: to learn, acknowledge their biases, and grow or leave the diner. By day's end, the diner was more than a place that served breakfast. It was a symbol of confronting hidden prejudices, even in the spaces we think we know best. Marcus paused by the door, looking at the empty booths. How many small injustices go unnoticed every day? How many hidden whispers shape the culture around us? And yet he felt a quiet optimism. Change was possible, but it required vigilance, honesty, and courage. For Marcus, this undercover visit had been more than a test of his business. It was a lesson in humanity, in confronting uncomfortable truths, and in the power of speaking up. Sometimes the smallest whisper reveals the biggest truths, and standing firm in the face of those truths can create a ripple that changes everything.